So let's talk about Assassin 2. If you guys remember, a while back I made a video about this brand new Assassin game that is in the works. It is made by an entire team of developers, not just Prisman. There's going to be a bunch of different new mechanics to the game, and it's going to come out in honestly a few short weeks. It should be coming out around February. And well, we're reaching the end of January, so we are going to be playing this game very soon. But yeah, be sure to check out that original video if you haven't done so, because it gives you the rundown of what we can expect in this new game. But that video basically just gave the cold hard facts. You know, I didn't really give any opinions on what I wanted to see in the game. But for this second video, we're going to take a bit of a deeper dive into this new Assassin game. First, I'm going to share with you guys some new information that we've gotten over the past month. And I'm actually going to give some of my own opinions about some of the changes that are going to be in this game, and some of the changes that I would like to see and I would not like to see. I'm even going to give my opinion on what's going to happen to our old Assassin inventories. And I hope you guys have come equipped with a nice, delicious, thick, creamy glass of milk, because these are going to be some spicy takes and you're going to need that milk, because milk helps with spice. But let's go ahead and start off with some new info, starting with the actual title of the game. That's right, I've been clickbaiting you guys. The title of this new game is actually not Assassin 2, at least we don't think it is. The devs have basically just been referring to this as a new Assassin game. The number 2 has not appeared anywhere there. We've just been calling it Assassin 2 basically as like a placeholder name, because, you know, we didn't really know what else to call it. And to this day, we technically still don't have a confirmed title for this game, but we do have a pretty big hint, and we actually got this hint in the recent Assassin Christmas event. And I actually talked about this if you guys watched these videos on the Christmas event. But on December 25th, on Christmas Day, Prisman actually released a brand new knife code for a new exotic. And if you take a look at this exotic here, well, it actually looks very similar to the default knife that we're seeing in the new Assassin game. And the code that you need to put in to redeem this knife, well, the code is Assassin X. To me, that seems like a pretty big hint. Now, again, this is not confirmed. The devs have never given us a title at any point, but I would say that this code here is a pretty big hint that the game is actually going to be called Assassin X. So from here on out on this channel, we're going to be calling the game Assassin X unless we get any new updates about the title. And I'm sure some people are still going to call it Assassin 2. That is an okay placeholder name. But like I said earlier, the gameplay loop for this new game is so different from the original Assassin that I feel like calling it Assassin 2 wouldn't really do it justice. So until we get any recent news, we're just gonna call it Assassin X. And we also got a leak the other day about how the knife UI is going to look in Assassin X. So here's the video right here. This basically shows how the knife UI is going to work. And it seems like this time around, you can actually zoom into the knife and sort of take a look at it, which I think is pretty cool. And you can see right here, we have an exotic knife called Bombo. And this is basically the default knife in the original Assassin. And to be clear, I'm pretty sure this is just a placeholder. I don't think we're gonna have the default knife as an exotic, although that could happen, and it would be pretty funny because Assassin X does have its own default knife, so it would be pretty funny if we got the basic knife back in this game as an exotic. That would honestly be pretty funny. I don't know, we'll just have to see what happens. But let's go ahead and move on to the vast, wonderful land of speculation and opinions. What do we want to see in this new game? So I sort of asked you guys what you guys want to see in this new game, so we'll just go ahead and look at a few things. I'm just generally going to look at what people want to see in this new update, and I'll talk about it. And I think it goes without saying that one of the most important things that we're going to need in Assassin X is new gameplay. Of course, you know, I feel like this one is a given, but I do think it is worth mentioning. Now, I think there were many reasons why the original Assassin has sort of just been on a gradual decline, but I think one of the big reasons is fundamentally the gameplay of Assassin is relatively repetitive, I would say. You have a knife, you can stab and throw, kill your target, watch out for your assassin, and don't get third-partied or else you're gonna get salty. At the end of the day, that is basically what Assassin is at its core. That is the fundamental gameplay, and it is fun. Don't get me wrong, it is fun. You know, this game is popular for a reason, and people played Assassin for a very long time for a reason. You know, people have played this same game for years for a reason. But eventually, when you play the game over and over and over again, it does eventually get repetitive for a lot of people, and you know, eventually they just sort of get bored. Now granted, over the years there have been some other modes to keep the gameplay relatively fresh, most notably Assassin Royale. You know, Royale was a big, huge mode. Having a big map and a lot of players definitely changed the gameplay up quite a bit, but at its core, it was still Assassin. It was still basically the same game. And I'm not gonna get too deep into it because I made a whole hour-long video about it, but the gameplay does have its own issues, such as, you know, camping being extremely optimal instead of just, you know, fighting people. And on top of that, Assassin now has to compete with one of the biggest Roblox games of all time, Murder Mystery 2. Because Murder Mystery 2 has its own Assassin mode that basically works the same as Assassin. Now, did Nicholas steal this idea from Prisman and put it in his own game? I don't know. Maybe. Probably. But that was 7 years ago, and everyone forgot about it. And like it or not, Murder Mystery 2 has hundreds of thousands of players. And a very small percentage of those people actually play Assassin mode. I feel like Assassin mode is just like sort of a weird limbo, barren wasteland, but it still has a lot more players than the actual Assassin game. So why would people go to Assassin when Murder Mystery 2 is right there with the same gameplay? And it's way more popular and they've been playing it for years. It's unfortunate to think about, but that is kind of something you have to consider. Now, of course, this point, like I said, is kind of a given. Plutonum has said multiple times that the gameplay is completely different, although we're not really sure how yet. So, you know, the way that it's different from normal Assassin is still up to speculation. Really, the only clue we have here is the video that I showed earlier of the devs hitting the gritty. If you take a look at that video, you can actually see that sometimes a blue sphere will appear around a certain player, which is really interesting. So I think that does tie in to the new gameplay, and I'm expecting for this to be one of the many new mechanics in Assassin X. Now, we don't really know what this does. If I were to take a guess, I would say that this is a type of shield, so maybe you can put up your shield and it will protect you from enemy attacks so you can't get killed. But there might also be a downside to that. Maybe, you know, you won't be able to throw your knives. Maybe you'll have to stab someone instead of throwing. I don't know. So we are definitely getting some new gameplay, which is really cool. So I'm very excited for that. So all I'm really going to say about the matter of gameplay is that I feel like Assassin X kind of needs to appeal to the casual audience. I feel like that's sort of the big issue with Assassin right now. It doesn't appeal to the casual audience. Definitely did a while back, many years ago, but I feel like over time Assassin got way more and more competitive, and you know, most people playing Assassin right now are, you know, competitive players. And to be clear, there's nothing wrong with competitive players. The competitive community, they definitely have, you know, a place in the Assassin community for sure. But I feel like when every single update tries to cater for that competitive community for the sake of making things, you know, fair, it sort of just takes the fun out of the game a little bit. Take for instance 2020, the Priz World map. You guys might remember this, the Priz World map. It was a giant carnival with a bunch of different rides. You had the teacups that were spinning around, a bunch of moving parts. There was so much to that map. You could climb on the Ferris wheel, you could snipe people from there. There was Spleef. You could just play Spleef in Assassin. You could say, screw it, truce, let's not fight with knives, let's just play Spleef, may the best man win in that department. And you could just do that if you wanted to, because why not? It was fun. Now, I will admit that map definitely had some issues, and you know, there was definitely some more optimization that could have been had, but man, that map was fun. It was just fun to play on. It was silly, and man, the competitive players just bullied that map out of the game in just a few months. They said, we don't want this in our competitive mode, which again is valid because it was really laggy and very hard to hit people on the teacups. It was kind of annoying. To which I say, why not just remove that map from only competitive mode? In fact, why not just remove most of the maps from competitive mode? You know, competitive mode can just have like estate and ruins and maybe like Castle Keep, you know, some of the standard competitive maps. And then classic mode can keep all of the fun, cool, gimmicky maps. You know what I mean? You know, this is just one example, but I feel like over time, Assassin just got way too competitive, and I don't know, the game just sort of got bland as a result. Anyway, speaking of competitive, moving on to the next point, I'm looking through these comments here, and I'm seeing a lot of people to actually wanting competitive mode to straight up be removed, which is... whew, that is a spicy take. Now, of course, I have sort of voiced my opinion on competitive mode in the past. I have sort of said that, you know, in general, I think that competitive mode was probably one of the worst additions to Assassin, if not the worst. I think when competitive mode got added, I feel like that was actually the start of a very slow but gradual decline in, you know, the player base, which is ironic because I feel like competitive mode is one of the most talked about things like in Assassin in general right now. Whenever there's an update, everyone always asks, you know, when the next competitive season is. But I'd say in general, you know, competitive mode was just very fundamentally flawed in how it was designed. If you wanted to be in the top 10 and, you know, get the cool prizes, you basically had to play all the day, every day for a few weeks. And just, you know, the constant grinding and the constant toxicity of competitive mode, I feel like that was just one of the biggest issues. To nobody's surprise, being forced to grind the same game over and over again for 16 hours a day for every single day for a couple weeks straight is gonna cause some burnout. And it's very gradual burnout. Like I said, you know, the first competitive season or so, you know, people are gonna grind for it, and, you know, once they get the prize, they're gonna be a little tired of the game. They might take, you know, they might take some time off, a few days or so, but then, you know, they might get back into it. But over time, as, you know, more and more competitive seasons happen and more people consecutively grind the leaderboard and get those prizes, it just sort of gets tiring, especially if you do it multiple times, like I said. And you top that with, you know, the clan seasons, which started happening every week. So now people are even grinding outside of competitive mode to get the clan prizes. And it's just a recipe for total burnout. I'm not sure if competitive mode should go away altogether. Like I said, I do think there is a time and place for the competitive community, and I really do not think they should be abandoned altogether. Despite all the issues, I don't think the competitive community should be completely abandoned. But if there is a competitive mode with a leaderboard, I think the fundamental design of it is gonna have to change. Maybe make it like a sort of, I don't know, maybe like a tournament or something, like a 1v1 tournament, and you kill certain people and you go up in the ranks over time or something. I don't know. I'm just throwing ideas at the wall here. I've been playing a lot of Pet Simulator 99 recently, and to be clear, you should take extreme caution when you take notes out of Preston's book. But right now in that game, each of the clan competitions actually have a different objective each time. So the first competitive season was, you know, to open Titanic presents and then hatch the most huges, and then after that it was have the most pets in your inventory. So maybe having competitive seasons where the objective is different every time, so people sort of have to change up their gameplay and, you know, figure out how to optimize it the most. I don't know, that seems like something that could potentially work. I'm not sure. Anyway, before we move off of the topic on competitive mode, I'm gonna go ahead and just drop my first spicy take for Assassin X. This is something I want to see in Assassin X, and I've said this before in live streams and stuff, so for some of you this might not be a huge surprise, but I feel like this take might be kind of controversial, or at least it might for some classic Assassin players. Anyway, my first big spicy take of the video. Here it comes. I think players who are toxic to other players should be banned from Assassin X. I know, that is a very controversial opinion, but I mean it. I think if you are toxic to other people and saying mean things, you should be banned from the game. And I will reiterate, it is a temporary ban, or, you know, at first it will be a temporary ban. So, you know, it's not like you say one mean thing and you're permanently banned. But I feel like one of the biggest issues for Assassin right now, that has been one of the biggest issues for years, is just the toxicity. Man, people are just mean to each other. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. They are just nasty to each other. Now, like I said, there is a number of reasons that, you know, Assassin has sort of been on the decline, and, you know, most of them are probably the fault of the developer of the game. Lack of updates, lack of communication, yada yada yada. You know, the list sort of goes on. You know, hackers, of course, you know, not really keeping up with the hacker situation. Of course, that is to the fault of the developers of the game, but I feel like, you know, a lot of the time the community does not hold itself accountable for the amount of people they have probably scared off. Like I said, there was so much toxicity in pretty much every single server you went to. And I can handle people being trolly and toxic to me. I think it's funny, if anything. But like I said, imagine being a new player to the game. Now, I don't know about you, but if I was a new player looking for a game and, you know, I see this cool assassin game, it looks fun, it's cool. So, you know, I join it and it looks fun, but every single server, people are nasty to each other. They're mean to each other, throwing out insults, throwing out slurs. I'm just saying, if I was a new player and I saw that, I would have said nope. I would have said nope. I would have taken a 180 and I would have ran for the hills. I would not be in a community that, you know, does that all the time. I started Assassin back in 2016, 2017, where it was mostly chill. If I was a new player in Assassin in 2020, I would have ran for the hills long before I started, you know, making videos on it. And every community is gonna have its bad apples. There's always gonna be some toxicity. But when it happens in mostly every single server, especially in competitive mode, it just drives people away. Like, you can't deny that something like that would decrease the player count. So going back to my original point, yeah, I think the toxicity should actually be moderated because, you know, in normal Assassin, it's like, okay, if people are mean to each other, you know, that's not really breaking any rules, right? Really, the rules for Assassin were, you know, don't exploit, don't boost, don't dupe knives, you know, don't cheat. That's basically what it all boiled down to, right? Just don't cheat in the game, don't cheat in, you know, competitive mode, don't recruit hackers into your clan and stuff like that. And then, you know, if people are mean to each other and they say slurs, it's like, you know, it's not really breaking the rules of Assassin. They're not really doing anything wrong. And I think if Assassin X wants to be successful, I think that needs to change. I think we have to conceal the toxicity. And I think the one best way to do that is to just ban players who are being toxic. Now, of course, this would sort of be up to the discretion of the moderators. You know, they would have to look at the chat and maybe look at the context and, you know, determine if a player was toxic to another person or not. And like I said, it would be a temporary ban. I don't think it should be like a permanent ban like it is with hackers. You know, I think it should be just a temporary ban unless, you know, one person gets temporary banned so many times, then maybe it can be permanent. But that has to be sort of a last ditch effort. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, I think this is a big issue with the community that needs some kind of moderation. And of course, speaking of moderators, for the love of God, have more of them, please. I feel like for Classic Assassin, it was mainly just Zikoid doing all of the work. And, you know, Olaf was there every now and then to, you know, provide a hand. And, you know, of course, Prisman was there too sometimes. But I feel like, you know, Zikoid did like 80% of the work for like all of the bans and trying to keep the community together during competitive seasons. But you need more people, you know. I think you need to have a team of at least, you know, maybe 5 people, you know, actively working on moderating the game, and they can, you know, talk about things and sort of coordinate and discuss whether or not someone should be banned together, you know what I mean? There needs to be more than, you know, one person doing 80% of the work, because when that happens, that one person is going to make a lot of mistakes over time. And that one person is going to get a lot of scrutiny and harassment for their small mistakes. Personally, I think Zikoid is probably one of the most mistreated members of the community, especially in the 2020s, but you know, that is a discussion for another day, my friends. Anyway, before we get to the next hot take, let's just go ahead and, you know, take a bit of a breather and look at some other things people are saying. Now, some people have asked if Assassin X is going to have R15 in the game. You guys might remember that R15 was in Assassin for quite a bit, but it ended up being removed, and, you know, now it just has R6 in the game and nothing else. And it has actually been confirmed by Plutonum that Assassin X is only going to have R6 once again. Now, if you guys were following me closely back in the early 2020s, you guys would know that, you know, for Assassin, I think R15 was not really given a fair chance. You know, I said that the different R15 animations really don't make that big of a deal, especially if the hitboxes are shown and all that, you know what I mean? You know, Assassin did have a show hitbox option, which sort of evened things out because everyone had the same hitbox, you know, regardless of animation, right? And R15 was just a nice way to sort of bring back the casual audience and, you know, let them express themselves a bit more. Now, since then, my opinion on R15 in Assassin has completely changed. Please do not bring R15 into the game. I think keeping R6 is actually now a really good play. And the reason for that is R15 has changed a lot because of one big thing. Okay, well, technically it's multiple big things, but I'd say the big issue with R15 right now is layered clothing and UGC content. You guys have probably seen all those silly videos where, you know, someone has a very specific layered clothing avatar and it just completely glitches their avatar entirely, and, you know, it'll make them invisible or something. You know, you can have an outfit that makes you completely invisible. Or sometimes you can even have like a massive, huge avatar that takes up the entire map, and then you can just spin around and give people seizures. But not the player itself that's actually wearing that outfit. You know, if they stay in first person, they're not going to see their own outfit, so they can see just fine. But with that huge outfit, they can spin around and completely blind the other players. I'm sure you guys have seen countless YouTubers do this just for the funnies. In fact, I'm guilty of it myself. I remember making an MM2 video where I was completely invisible because of a layered clothing glitch. I remember making that video. And, you know, it's kind of funny when YouTubers do it every now and then. But man, if it becomes like a regular issue, it just becomes super annoying. Prop Hunt 2 and Murder Mystery 2, people would just, you know, sort of dress up as props and items and they'd be able to hide that way, which again, it's kind of funny, but like gameplay wise, especially for something like Assassin, it would be really annoying. And that is just a can of worms that we do not want to open here in Assassin. These glitched avatars, you know, Roblox's moderation against them is just so poor. It's so poor. Roblox just cannot ban all of them. And, you know, for some games, some developers will go through and actually try to, you know, ban those specific items, but you know, there's always so many new, you know, glitched outfits every single day that it kind of adds up. And eventually a lot of those developers just kind of give up. They just kind of give up when it comes to banning those avatar items. So unless Roblox decides to miraculously step up their moderation, which I don't see that happening anytime soon, I'm gonna go ahead and say we probably do not want R15 in Assassin X. Let's stick with R6, because if we add in R15, there's going to be so many problems that, you know, just a lot of Roblox games sort of suffer with to this day, because sometimes these layered clothing glitched avatars can just make the whole game unplayable. Anyway, let's go ahead and move on to the final topic of this video, and that is our inventories, my friends. Our Assassin inventories, the knives that we have built up over many years, several years. What's going to happen to them? What's going to happen to them as we move on to this brand new Assassin game? Well, Plutonum has actually stated that our Assassin inventories will not transfer into the new game at all. They will not be transferring. We will have to start fresh with a brand new inventory. All that work, years of work, just down the drain. Can you believe it? I can't. Now, Plutonum's reasoning for this is, well, first of all, it's going to be pretty complicated to, you know, transfer all of your knives to a different game. But his main reasoning for this is that, well, if all of your stats and your inventories transferred from the previous game, then a lot of people would not have a reason to grind the brand new game. So therefore, the best solution is to just wipe everyone's inventory. Just start completely fresh. Now, this decision in particular has caused many people to be outraged. And for good reason. It is reasonable to feel frustrated that all of your hard work is basically being taken away. It's not going to matter in the new game, so what's the point anymore, right? What was the point of anything? Now, let me go ahead and preface. Let me remind you that I have been playing Assassin, growing my inventory for 7 years. 7 years. That is a long time. to grow your inventory. And the amount of effort that I have put in to grow this inventory simply cannot be put into words. I have grinded Roblox Assassin for hundreds, thousands, maybe even in the tens of thousands of hours to get new knives, to save up tokens, to open cases. I grinded for top 10 twice, and I grinded top 100 way more times than I can count, where I had to play for hours in a row every single day, sleepless nights, just trying to get those competitive prizes. I have countless hours on this game. I have opened hundreds and hundreds of cases. I've done thousands of trades, some good, some bad. I am nearly prestige 600. 600 prestiges. That is insane. And I have also spent so much Robux on unboxings and battle passes. I have bought every single bundle with Robux. I have bought every bundle in the game. Bundles are pretty cheap in Assassin, but that adds up to a lot of Robux. I have spent over a third of my life playing this game. I have poured tons of blood, sweat, tears, time, and money into building this inventory. And now this man, Plutonum, has the audacity to say that none of the stuff are going to transfer into the new game, that I have to start anew after everything that I have done. Well, Plutonum, if that's where your real name is, do you want to know what I think about that? Honestly, I don't mind. I'm actually kind of excited. Yep, there it is. That is my second hot and spicy take of the video. I'm actually kind of excited to just start fresh, start anew. Now, don't get me wrong, I absolutely treasure my original Assassin inventory. But man, I really have not cared about this economy for a while. I mean, for quite a few years now, I've basically had every single knife in the game. I've had hundreds of different knives, loads of value. I've pretty much done everything I've wanted in the original Assassin. In terms of collecting knives and trading knives and gaining value, I've pretty much done everything I've wanted. And, you know, I am missing some of the knives, you know, some of the new top 100 prizes. I am missing some of those. But like, whatever, it is what it is. I've grinded lots of top 10s, and I've traded for even more top 10s, some of them even being from developers. I traded I Don't Have a Use for his Void Champion. I traded Prisman for his Infernal Guardian. And eventually, when you're at that really high point, it's sort of just like, okay, I did it. You know, I beat the game. Once you have every single knife in the game, it's like, yeah, sure, you can continue trading. You can get duplicates of the same knives you already have and, you know, have, you know, 69 Krampuses and 420 Skeleton Kings or something. You can have a bunch of, you know, you can have like 10 of every single knife. But, you know, at that point, it's sort of just imaginary numbers, right? It's just imaginary numbers. You have a bunch of that same knife, and you know, you're gaining more value according to the fan-made value list, and eventually it's just like, I don't know, it's not that important to keep growing. You sort of done everything you've already could. And you know, there'll be new knives and some new updates. Although me personally, as a content creator, I would usually just get those with Robux. And there have been so many times where, you know, I would sit and I would think of the journey that I've had, and I would think, man, I wish I could start over. Now, don't get me wrong. Like I said, I still treasure my Assassin inventory. I don't want it to go anywhere. You know, if I was hacked tomorrow and all of my knives were traded away, yeah, I'd be pretty bummed out about that. That would definitely ruin my day, my week, possibly even my year. I'd be pretty upset about that. I don't want that to go anywhere, but at the same time, you know, I kind of just want to have that feeling again of learning the economy and growing my inventory and, you know, doing some trades that may or may not be all that great. I know a lot of people are going to ask, you know, why don't you just start over again from an alt? Or why don't you just give away your knives? And, you know, again, it's kind of unrealistic to give away all of my knives. It would just sort of make things unfair. because, you know, obviously I can't give a knife to every single person that wants a knife from me. And it's like, yeah, you know, you could start over on an alt and build a new inventory, and, you know, you'd be able to keep your old inventory as well, which is really cool. And I've actually done that for videos before. I've done like a common to mythic challenge and a common to dream challenge. And, you know, those actually did really well. They were fun to make, but it's not the same. It's not the same as actually being new to the game and learning the economy. You know, when you start over like that on an alternate account, you still know the economy. You still know what trades are good and what trades aren't good. You have that experience, which allows you to grow your inventory a lot faster, which is nice, but it doesn't feel the same, and it still sort of has that same issue of feeling kind of pointless, because, you know, you already have everything on another account. Why would you want to grind on an alt and have less knives? That's just how I feel about it. And I know this rant is kind of just the biggest first world problem, you know, struggling from success, but I don't know, that's kind of how I felt about Assassin for a few years now, honestly. So you compound that on top of just the issues the economy has in general, such as, you know, overpay values. I feel like that's not much of an issue right now because there is actually a new value list I feel like people are sort of following, which is nice, so it makes things sort of easy to understand. But another big issue is the duping incident. Last year, about 1 year ago, January of 2023, there was a duping incident. There was an issue, there was an exploit where, you know, things were getting duped, particularly top 10 weapons. And obviously, you know, trading was disabled for a lot of people for a while, and, you know, it was sort of sorted out. You know, you can't really dupe in the game anymore, so the issue was kind of resolved, but those dupes are still kind of out there. And a lot of the value of some knives, particularly the top 10 prizes, they've decreased substantially. And I don't know, that sort of just demotivated me further to bother with any trades, because, you know, I don't want to trade for knives that were duped. I haven't really done any big trades in over a year because I'm worried about keeping my inventory authentic. So, you know, I'm just not really active in trading anymore. So when you have a massive inventory that you don't want to lose, but you also, you know, you want a fresh start and you want that experience of, you know, learning the economy again, Assassin X is the perfect compromise. Assassin X is actually a chance for me and a lot of people to just start fresh with a brand new economy, with no overpay values and no duping and no new top 10 prizes that I have to, you know, grow some gray hairs to trade for. I could just go back to basics and, you know, just grind the game, collect some knives, and go from there. All the while, my original Assassin inventory is still in Assassin. It's not going anywhere. It's still there. And that applies to all of you guys watching this. You know, I know it might be frustrating to have to start anew, but your inventory is not really going anywhere. It's still staying in the original Assassin. And I can hear the comments already, but no data. No one's gonna play the original Assassin once the new game comes out. My guy, I don't know how to tell you this, but no one's playing the original Assassin right now. That's just the cold hard truth. There's not a lot of players on the original Assassin right now. So really your options here are, you know, to keep your old Assassin inventory and, you know, we all just play the original Assassin until the heat death of the universe and the game just slowly fades out and all of the work in your inventory was pointless regardless. Or we can start fresh with a brand new game, have some fun, grow our inventories there, and then, you know, we still have our old inventory in the old Assassin. And, you know, ideally, new players might come to that new game and, you know, we can revisit old Assassin every now and then. And as someone who has grown their inventory for 7 years, I'm gonna, you know, sort of drop a truth bomb here that, you know, our knives in Assassin, at the end of the day, they're just cosmetics. You know, they're just pixels on a screen. That's all they are. And regardless of what happens to Assassin, you know, we're all gonna retire from it someday. We're all gonna grow old and gray, and, you know, maybe Roblox will one day shut down and no longer be a company. And at the end of the day, these were just silly little knives. And, you know, they never truly meant anything. At the end of the day, they never truly meant anything. But we had fun. We had fun grinding this inventory. We had so much fun. So many memories. And that's what it's all about. It's not about the destination. It's about the journey. I really did not expect to go all philosophical over assassin knives in this video, but here we are. That's my take. That is my take about our inventories going away. Well, they're not going away. Again, they're still going to be here. They're still going to be in normal assassin. But that's how I feel about it. That is my unfiltered opinion. And if you're upset about it, again, it's for good reason. I get it, you know, especially if you're like an intermediate player that, you know, has good momentum right now. And, you know, they have a lot of knives, but there's still more to do. I would absolutely get you if I was in your shoes. But ultimately, I do think it is a necessary evil. And I think Plutonum is right. You know, if a bunch of people started this game with a bunch of different knives that they've already had, then there really isn't much point to grinding. And Plutonum has stated that some OG Assassin players might still get some rewards depending on how much they played. So, you know, at the end of the day, our work still might not all be for naught. We might still have a head start on the new game compared to the brand new players that have never played Assassin before. We're still going to have a bit of a head start, potentially. Anyway, that is my opinions on Assassin X. Coming soon, guys. There is a few more weeks to go, and we are going to be playing the new Assassin game, which is insane to think about. You know, I feel like this game sort of came out of nowhere. You know, just a few months ago, everything just seemed kind of hopeless. But here we are with the new Assassin game. And regardless of what happens, I'm so excited to play this game. And I think I'm going to be making more videos and live streams on the classic Assassin, you know, sort of leading up to the new Assassin. Sort of just to give a proper send-off to this game, even though it's still going to be around. You know, it feels like the end of an era that we have to give this game a proper send-off as a lot of people move on to Assassin X. And I really hope that it is a banger. And I'm going to be one of the first big content creators for Assassin X. It's going to be fun. I hope you guys are going to be there for the ride. I know I really haven't uploaded too much in the past year or so, but I'm looking forward to Assassin X. It's gonna be cool. Anyway, that's all from me. Expect some more videos and live streams soon, but for now, I gotta go back into the dark depths of Pet Simulator 99. It is a cruel world out there. I don't know how much longer I'm gonna survive. So, you know, keep me in your thoughts as I slowly descend into madness in that game. And then hopefully Assassin X will sort of bring me out of that. But I gotta go. Farewell for now, my comrades.